You just took your package. I sat it down and I thought I heard a movement.
Wow, yeah. In woke liberal cities, it's not your package, it's our package. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. My name is Luke Rudowski here of wearechange.org, and there's a lot of just wild and crazy news out there, as of course the Russians are off the coast of Florida, as Florida men are told not to respond. Will they? Well, there's a lot of other very serious questions regarding our geopolitical foreign policy that we're going to be talking about in this video, as well as all the very troubling developments surrounding Kevin Spacey that just had some very interesting things to say about a Mr. Epstein and Clinton that he was involved in as he looks to get back into the show business, as in reality our world is crumbling all around us, as Joe Rogan might give us a perspective to who really is in charge. Who is it? Well, we're going to try to answer that question and a lot more all here on this independent media broadcast. If you like the shirt that I'm wearing, you could get it on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. Atlas is being an incredible dog and now has been reinforced positively to always be there and not challenge me. Every new subscriber means one new treat for Atlas. As of course, the clip that we played in the beginning of this broadcast is from Columbus, Ohio, showing a, quote, average FedEx delivery in 2024, showing us how porch pirates are becoming more brazen by the day, as this probably was an orchestrated, organized event somehow, as the Federal Reserve keeps printing more money out of thin air and creating more difficulties for the average American that is just trying to make ends meet. But don't worry, the technocratic AI intelligentsia soon might be tracking down some of these criminals. We're kidding. They won't ever do that. They'll go after thought criminals first, and people who, of course, think independently for themselves. As recently, the Pope has even been warning people about the advancement of technology, specifically artificial intelligence, as in a message released officially by the Pope, he warned of a, quote, technological dictatorship that could soon emerge if, quote, sufficient regulations aren't being put in place on artificial intelligence, as he is highlighting the threats posed by AI-controlled weapon systems, a surveillance society, and potential interference in election that all could be done through larger technocratic advancement and means that could be outside of human control. This being one of the most kind of based comments made by the Pope, who also recently is accused of repeating a homophobic slur that literally prompted the Vatican to issue an apology, as it looks like the woke Pope is no longer that woke. As according to Italian media reports, the Pope used a term that YouTube will not allow us to use, as the Pope allegedly used this term a bunch of times in closed-door meetings, as there's conversations about gay men being welcome to the church, but not in the seminaries. This as recently, the Pope has also called for the end of the war in Ukraine, representing a larger proxy war between the United States and Russia that has just escalated to grand proportions, to the point where now Russian military vessels are 25 miles off of the coast of America. This as the United States just sent their destroyers to track down Russian nuclear submarines and warships that are carrying hypersonic weapons of unknown capabilities, as this latest show of force, this saber-rattling-like event, is something that is proving to be very inconvenient for the United States that looks like it's re-engaging in another Cuban Missile Crisis with the Ruskies. This as we have also gotten reports that the United States is demanding that Russian warships stay away from Florida, as the Kremlin has responded that, quote, they are simply giving the United States a taste of its own medicine, as the United States routinely also sends their military aircraft and equipment near the Russian border, as the Russians are also expected to conduct marine exercise with nuclear submarines just 66 miles off the coast of Florida within the next few hours. All of this as there's talks from Russian state media television that they are going to be setting up military equipment all over Latin America, right on America's doorstep to, of course, counter the United States doing the same thing in Europe with NATO. This as just moments ago, the United States officially cleared the very controversial Ukrainian Azov battalion for specifically American weapons and training. As the U.S. State Department says that, quote, there is no evidence of gross human rights violations that the group has been accused of, as the very far-right group and organization in Ukraine has a little bit of a controversial history worshiping and looking up to idols specifically linked to far-right ideology. This as it's clear to say that we're ever so moving closer towards a catastrophic-like escalation that threatens the entire world, as China is now also, of course, issuing official statements regarding this matter, as the president of China, Xi Jinping, just came out and said, quote, we must assume our responsibilities for history and the people. We must keep to the right direction and work together to build a community with a shared future for mankind. During specific conversations about the escalations that could lead to a larger nuclear war between Russia and China, which, of course, would extensively mean the end of this entire world. As, of course, this graph here, this comparison of the technological advancements that have already happened with nuclear weapons is shocking and surprising. This little circle right here that has to be, of course, expanded greatly highlights the payload of Little Boy and Fat Man that was used by the United States many, many years ago, as there are new nuclear weapons that have far more megatons, far more explosive capabilities that are already at play here and would have severe ramifications for not just the countries that use them, but for the entire world. This says the world is becoming more dangerous, and this is one reason why I created a quasi-secret, not-so-secret society called LukeUnfiltered.com, where we try to prioritize becoming the best, strongest, most amazing version of yourself. As, of course, we have a lot of information centered specifically around that. We have 10 plus years of members-only exclusive videos, many of them centered around diet, exercise, doing the right thing, making sure you make the right decisions for yourself as an individual, spurring on critical thinking, spurring on analysis and deep-level conversations down the rabbit hole that you can't find anywhere else other than LukeUnfiltered.com. If you haven't signed up yet, what are you waiting for? As we are going to be doing a nature hike at PorcFest next week in New Hampshire, surrounded by, of course, the beautiful White Mountains, one of the most beautiful places in the entire world. As, of course, this hike is only available for members of LukeUnfiltered.com. If you haven't got your tickets to PorcFest yet, what are you waiting for? You could use promo code Luke10 for 10% off of those tickets. We're going to be doing live in-person podcast episodes that are going to be really fun at PorcFest, which, of course, you guys will be able to participate in, as we're going to be taking questions from the audience members live in real time. As, of course, members also get to call in to our show, also get to be a part of a lot of really cool things like 3 masterclasses, a forum, a members-only t-shirt store, contests, tickets, giveaways, you name it. We got it all available on, of course, LukeUnfiltered.com, as we get into a lot of different shenanigans that are only possible because of your direct support and participation, which really does mean a lot to us. You haven't joined yet, join right now, and we will see you there right after this broadcast. As, of course, the conversation continues, as recently Joe Rogan, on one of his podcast episodes with comedian Tim Dillon, described a situation that is becoming more common knowledge for the average American, an idea that used to be laughed at, an idea that used to be controversial and seen as a conspiracy theory, as he details specifically how there most likely is a secret cabal of individuals really running the United States. As the Biden administration has highlighted the clear inconsistencies with the official story that the President of the United States is the official commander-in-chief and a decider of everything, as of course, that's not the case with a man who is not mentally capable of doing that. As Joe Rogan details, that the people around Joe Biden are probably really the ones calling the shots, as of course they represent this secret cabal, this shadowy bureaucratic state that predominantly is usually there regardless of whatever kind of president is in power.
Biden doesn't exist. I believe
It could be the first AI thing.
I think he's a living human being. Don't get me wrong, but there's nothing there. It doesn't exist. So
It's
I think
not there.
I don't think there's a question about this.
Right.
So everything around him is with supporting the country, which is kind of crazy.
Right.
Kind of shows you that the system kind of works.
Sure.
You know, when you got a guy like that, it's a great kind of stress test to see, like, what happens when you get a guy that's just going. And also, how much you can gaslight people into voting for him again.
Yes.
How much you can gaslight people into voting for the people around him again is what it really is. The people you don't even know. Like this mysterious cabal of humans that's actually running the country.
Now, who are these humans? How do they operate? Well, I think it's fair to say that this leaves us with a lot of speculation, but there's overwhelming kind of themes that do seem to revolve. A lot of these same individuals that usually hang out with the same kind of deprived actors and human beings that really are up to no good, as of course, there's a lot of shadowy figures, there's a lot of public figures, there's a lot of actors, there's a lot of celebrities, there's a lot of people also that are a little bit more brazen with their actions, especially when it comes to some of the activities that they have done, that they essentially have no shame with. And if you look at a lot of the very powerful people in our kind of institutions, a lot of them that have kind of went down, they kind of represent the middle layer players, the individuals like Mr. Diddy and R. Kelly, a Weinstein, and Epstein. As once in a while, we get a little bit of a preview of what happens behind the scenes at the true realms of power and influence here in the Western world. And it's not a nice perspective and picture. That perspective and picture, we got more details about recently from Kevin Spacey that came out and actually was a part of a conversation with Piers Morgan, where he described and admitted that he was flying with Mr. Epstein and the former president of the United States that routinely ditched his Secret Service in order to fly on a private jet with, quote, young girls on them. This, as Mr. Spacey also revealed that he was with a group when they met Prince Andrew and hung out allegedly with Ghislaine Maxwell at Buckingham Palace, where there, of course, is a very infamous photo of him and Maxwell and what looks like a seat of power that, according to now Kevin Spacey, he was photobombed in, as Kevin Spacey's statements seem a little contradictory. And I think it's fair to say that this man is an absolute incredible actor who recently had this to say specifically about the young girls that he was on a plane with the former president of the United States.
He's not my friend. I'm not a confidant. I've never spent time with him. And interestingly, I will say this. I was very fortunate that President Clinton introduced me a lot of business leaders in London because he knew I was coming to the Old Vic. And I developed relationships with Robert Earl, Pula Ladobovich, Robert Earl, a lot of wonderful people, Sir Richard Caring, people who supported the work that we did at the Old Vic and gave money to us. Do you know who I never asked for anything? Was Jeffrey Epstein. I didn't want to be around this guy because I felt he put the president at risk on that trip to South Africa because there were these young girls. And we were like, who is this guy? So I will say this.
There were young girls on those flights.
There were young girls on those flights, yeah.
Very interesting comments that, of course, I would want some kind of explanation to, as, of course, I'm left with a lot more questions than answers here about what was really going on here. As, of course, if you're paying attention to the story, it was Mr. Epstein that procured small underage children to do unspeakable things with for very powerful and influential people that he would build compromise on. Compromise and extortion that would be used against them later on, most likely connected to intel agencies that were using the gross amounts of videotapes, hard drives, photos that have been documented here that went missing under the control of the FBI, as this entire operation is something that, according to a lot of analysts, was taxpayer funded and had some of the most sinister aspects of society that was finally somewhat revealed through predominantly independent journalism and a few individuals in authority who weren't swayed or intimidated by very powerful forces that tried to stop a lot of this information from being revealed to the general public. As of course, it wasn't just Kevin Spacey, it was also other actors a part of this trip to Africa on Mr. Epstein's plane. Bill Clinton's involvement here is really something that is worth questioning, as of course this man is not known for keeping it in his pants. Kevin Spacey, by the way, also had a lot of very serious accusations against him, where a lot of his accusers met, quote, an early demise. This is Kevin Spacey also detailed how he is facing bankruptcy and how massive portions of his wealth actually disappeared from battling and fighting the accusations against him. As the Daily Mail is reporting that he was worth nearly 60 million pounds with a major property empire spanning from the United States to London. This as the 64-year-old actor was actually cleared of 9 assault charges against him last July, as he previously personally apologized for his former conduct, and then later used a kind of coming out of the closet moment in order to sway the PR media organizations in his favor, which again, the corporate media kind of played along with in the beginning, until overwhelmingly a lot of people were saying, hey, there's a lot more questions here that are pretty serious. As Kevin Spacey also detailed how he, quote, heard a message of support from King Charles during his legal battles, as of course the British royal family is also connected to a lot of very seedy, nasty, disgusting human beings that all share the commonality of being accused or being found out of hurting small children in unspeakable ways. This as Kevin Spacey also is claiming that he hasn't seen Prince Andrew since 2002, as the Mirror is reporting that probably is, quote, a lie, as there's old photos of them resurfacing. As it's important to note here that we're left with a lot more questions than answers about what really is going on here. And if Kevin Spacey is giving interviews, we hope journalists ask him the right questions so we really find out the larger kind of purview of what's really happening here, as of course it's pretty clear that there's a lot more at play here than what we're being told. And if you agree with that, share this video with your friends and family members. If you disagree with my assertions and my opinions on this particular case, let me know why down in the comment section below, where I always appreciate all the questions, all the comments. As of course, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys signing up. The conversation continues all on lukeunfiltered.com right now with a brand new video just for members available right now. Again, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. This is why I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on youtube.com/wearechange. And oh yeah, we're doing a major podcast. We don't know when, with a major big player. Click the subscribe button in order to make sure that you get it when we go live.